650,000 barrels of crude oil refined every single day on one site outside Lagos. A private investment firm sitting on more than $100 billion in assets. An airport that moves one of the busiest cities on earth, controlled through a fund the size of a small economy. A music catalog so valuable it pays its owners while they sleep. And a cement operation so vast it has poured the literal foundation under entire nations. These are not 5 different empires. They belong to 5 different black families. And by the time this is over, you will know all 10 of the wealthiest black families on the planet, counted down from number 10 to number 1. But here is the part almost no one is reporting correctly. The richest family on this list is not rich because someone in it became famous. They are rich because they own the things that fame can never buy and cannot take away. This is the story of black wealth, power, and legacy, told across 3 continents and more than 1 generation. And it is deliberately not the version you have already heard. Not the cars, not the chains, not the gossip, the deeds, the equity, the machines that keep earning long after the cameras leave. If that is the version you came for, subscribe and turn on notifications, because this is the only place telling it this way. Number 10. The Alakija Family. Most people meet Folorunso Alakija as a fashion footnote, a Nigerian woman who once ran a label called Supreme Stitches, sewing for the wives of Lagos high society in the 1980s. That is the icon story. It is not the wealth story. The wealth story begins in 1993, when she applied for an oil prospecting license in a country where almost no woman and almost no outsider ever held one. That license sat over a deep water block off the Nigerian coast that the world would later know as the Agbami field. When the oil finally came up, the Alakija family was not a contractor on someone else's project. Through their company, Famfa Oil, they held an ownership stake in one of the most productive offshore fields in Nigerian history. That is the move. She did not get paid to find the oil. She owned a piece of the oil. By reasonable analyst math, that single decision has been valued at points at around $1 billion, which has made her one of the wealthiest black women alive. But the figure fluctuates with the oil markets, and that is the lesson of the entire entry. A salary would have made her comfortable. An equity stake made her a dynasty. Her sons now sit across the family's energy and real estate holdings. Fame would have faded with the fashion. Ownership compounded into oil. And the family at number 9 understood that same principle, just applied to a different kind of pipeline. Number 9. The Ibrahim family. In the late 1990s, almost no serious investor believed Africans would pay for mobile phones. Mo Ibrahim, a Sudanese-born engineer who had worked at British Telecom, disagreed. So he built Celtel, a mobile network that strung signal across more than a dozen African countries that the rest of the industry had written off as too poor, too risky, too hard. Then came the exit that built the family fortune. In 2005, he sold Celtel for a reported $3.4 billion. Not a salary, a sale of the entire machine he had built. Today, the Ibrahim family fortune is reported at around $1.2 billion. But here is what separates this family from a lucky telecom entrepreneur. Mo Ibrahim took that capital and built the Mo Ibrahim Foundation and created the Ibrahim Prize, the largest individually funded award in the world, paid to African leaders who govern well and then leave office peacefully. His daughter Hadiel helped run it. Think about what that is. It is not charity. It is a family using its fortune to buy something money usually cannot touch, which is the behavior of governments. They built the phone lines of a continent and then tried to build its accountability. That is the legacy lever, and we will see it again at the very top. The family at number 8 took ownership one level higher. They do not own the network. They own the ground the network sits on. Number 8. The Ogunlesi family. When you fly through Gatwick, or land at London City Airport, or move energy across an American grid, there is a reasonable chance you are quietly paying a Nigerian-American family from Lagos. Adebayo Ogunlesi, son of the first Nigerian professor of medicine, trained as a lawyer and a banker, and then built Global Infrastructure Partners, a firm that does not make products. It owns the infrastructure underneath everything else. airports, ports, pipelines, power. This is ownership at its most invisible and its most durable. People do not stop using airports, and in 2024 came the move that confirmed the scale. BlackRock, the largest asset manager on Earth, acquired Global Infrastructure Partners in a deal reported at about $12.5 billion. Ogunlesi did not just cash out. He became one of BlackRock's largest individual shareholders and a lead voice on its board. His personal fortune is reported at around $2.5 billion. But the family's real position is structural. They sit inside the company that helps steer trillions of dollars of the world's money. Fame would have made him a celebrity banker. Ownership made him a permanent fixture in the plumbing of global capital. And the family at number 7 proves the exact same law works in a world built on culture instead of concrete. Number 7. The Carter family. Sean Carter grew up in the Marcy houses in Brooklyn, in an apartment that went stretches without running water. Beyoncé Knowles grew up in Houston, managed in her teens by her own father, watching an industry designed to take the most from the artists who made the most. Both of them learned the same brutal lesson early. The performer gets famous, the label gets rich. So they spent 2 decades refusing to let anyone else own the economics of their work. Jay-Z built Roc Nation. He bought a champagne house, Armand de Brignac, and later sold half of it to the owners of Moet Hennessy. He took a cognac brand, Douce, and sold his stake back in a deal that valued it at around $3 billion. Beyoncé kept her masters, kept her company Parkwood Entertainment, kept control. Today, the combined Carter household fortune is reported at roughly $3.5 billion, anchored by an $88 million estate in Bel Air and a $200 million home in Malibu, one of the most expensive ever sold in California. Their daughter, Blue Ivy, already carries a trademark on her own name. That is the icon-to-owner thesis in its purest cultural form. They did not rent their influence to corporations. They bought the brands, sold them at the peak, and kept the catalog. The fame was the down payment. The ownership was the house. The family at number 6 did it with something older and harder than music. They did it with rock. Number 6. The Motsepe family. In 2008, Patrice Motsepe became the first Black African ever to appear on the Forbes Global Billionaires list. He earned it underground. In the late 1990s, when South African mining giants were offloading marginal gold shafts, Motsepe bought the ones nobody wanted and made them profitable. That became African Rainbow Minerals. Then came African Rainbow Capital and a major stake in the financial group Sanlam. Today, the Motsepe family fortune is estimated at nearly $4 billion. But the number undersells the power, because this is not just a mining fortune. It is a dynasty braided directly into the spine of South Africa. One of Patrice's sisters, Bridget, is a businesswoman in her own right. Another sister, Chepo, is married to Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa. So the Motsepe name sits at the intersection of mineral wealth, the financial sector, the National Football Federation, where Patrice serves as president, and the presidency itself. Patrice was also the first African to sign the Giving Pledge. Fame would have bought a famous family. Ownership of mines, banks, and football clubs bought a family woven into the operating system of an entire nation. If this list is teaching you anything, it is that the quietest fortunes run the deepest. So if you are getting value from this, subscribe and turn on notifications. The next breakdown goes even further behind the curtain of black wealth most media will not touch. Now we cross from the billions into the tens of billions. And the next 4 families are not famous. They are something more dangerous than that. They are owners. Number 5. The Adenuga family. Mike Adenuga is worth a reported $6.5 billion, and you have most likely never heard him speak. That is the entire point of the man. He almost never gives interviews. He almost never appears on a panel. His silence is the flex. He started in the 1970s trading lace and soft drinks. Then he did something rare. He went after 2 of the hardest, most capital-heavy industries on earth at the same time. In the early 1990s, his company became one of the first indigenous Nigerian firms to strike crude oil through con oil producing. Then he built Globacom, the telecom network known across Nigeria simply as Glo, taking on giants and wiring tens of millions of subscribers. So, the Adenuga family owns the oil under the ground and the signal in the air. Two pieces of infrastructure a modern country physically cannot function without. He owns them privately, tightly, and quietly, passing influence through a family structure that rarely surfaces in public. Fame is loud. The Adenuga fortune is the opposite of loud. It is a man who decided that owning the machine mattered more than being seen running it. And the American family at number 4 turned that exact philosophy into one of the most powerful private equity engines in the world. Number 4. The Smith family. Robert F. Smith was a chemical engineer from Denver who wanted to be on the other side of the equation. So in the year 2000, he founded Vista Equity Partners and made a single, disciplined bet. Vista would not chase consumer fame. It would buy enterprise software companies, the unglamorous tools that banks, hospitals, and governments depend on and can never stop paying for. That bet built a firm with more than $100 billion in assets, and it made Smith's family fortune a reported $10.8 billion, placing them among the richest black families in America. But Smith understood the legacy lever as well as anyone on this list. He became the first black signatory of the Giving Pledge. And in 2019, standing in front of the graduating class of Morehouse College, he announced he would erase their student debt, a gift reported at around $34 million, freeing hundreds of young black men to start their adult lives owning their future instead of renting it from a lender. That is wealth architecture. He does not own the products you see. He owns the software companies that other businesses are built on top of. He took income, converted it into equity in the machine, and then used the machine to lift the next generation. And the family at number 3 did the same thing with cement and sugar, except they started a generation earlier. Number 3. The Rabiu family. Abdulsamad Rabiu did not start from nothing, and he is honest about it. His father, Isyaku Rabiu, was a major trader and industrialist in northern Nigeria, in the city of Kano. So the foundation was there. But a foundation is not a structure. In the late 1980s, Abdulsamad struck out on his own, importing rice, edible oil, and steel. Then, in 2005, he founded BUA Group, and over the next 2 decades turned a family trading name into one of the largest industrial conglomerates on the African continent. BUA makes the things a growing nation consumes by the ton: cement, sugar, flour, food. The Rabiu family fortune is reported at around $11.2 billion, making it one of the 2 or 3 largest in Africa. But pay attention to the family word. Abdulsamad has spoken openly about his children, and the next generation is being positioned across the business. This is the rarest thing in wealth, a second-generation family fortune that did not shrink but multiplied. Most inherited money decays. The Rabiu family took a foundation and built a skyline on it. That is ownership compounding across bloodlines, which is the whole game. And the family at number 2 is the proof that this exact playbook works just as well in the United States as it does in Nigeria. They are just so quiet that most Americans have no idea they exist. Number 2. The Steward family. Ask the average person to name the richest black family in America, and they will guess an athlete, a rapper, a talk show host. They will be wrong. By Forbes' reckoning, the richest black family in America is the Steward family, and their fortune is reported at about $11.4 billion. David Steward grew up in the segregated South, one of 8 children, with a father who worked as a mechanic, a janitor, and a trash collector to hold the family together. There was no foundation here. There was only work. In 1990, Steward founded Worldwide Technology, an information technology provider almost no consumer will ever interact with. And yet Worldwide Technology now generates around $20 billion in revenue, serving the federal government, Citi, Verizon, and a long list of the largest corporations on earth. Steward owns the majority of it. So, absorb the shape of this. The richest black family in America built its fortune in a business with no celebrity, no spotlight, and no fame whatsoever. A deeply religious, profoundly private man, sitting on more than $11 billion, completely unknown to the culture. That is what quiet capital actually looks like. It does not need to be seen to be enormous. Which brings us to the one name at the top, the family that does not just appear on this list, the family that towers over it. Number 1. The Dangote family. Start with the number, because the number is the story. The Dangote family fortune is reported by Forbes at around $28.5 billion. That is not first place by a nose. That is nearly triple the family ranked just below them. Aliko Dangote has been the richest black person on earth for more than 15 consecutive years, and at 68 years old, he is still expanding. But forget the ranking for a second, because the ranking is not why this family matters. Here is why. The Dangote family does not sell you a product. They sell a country, its building blocks. Through Dangote Cement, they run the largest cement operation in Africa. When a road is paved, a tower is raised, a home is built across much of the continent, there is a real chance the concrete came from a Dangote plant. They control salt, they control sugar, they control flour, the literal contents of the kitchen, and the literal foundation of the buildings. And then came the project that redrew the map, the Dangote refinery on the Lekki coast outside Lagos, 650,000 barrels per day, the largest single-train oil refinery in the entire world. For decades, oil-rich Nigeria suffered the absurd humiliation of exporting crude and importing refined fuel. One family built the machine to end that. Their refinery alone moved Dangote's fortune by billions, helped by a rally of nearly 70% in Dangote Cement shares in a single year. Now look at the family structure, because this is a dynasty by design. His daughters, Halima, Maria, and Fatima, hold senior roles across the group. The succession is not an accident, it is engineered. This is the icon-to-owner thesis taken to its absolute conclusion. Aliko Dangote did not get rich being admired. He got rich owning the cement, the fuel, the sugar, and the flour that an entire region cannot live without. When a politician needs the economy to grow, they need his factories running. When a citizen builds a home, they buy his cement. When they cook a meal, they likely buy his sugar and his flour. When they fill a tank, his refinery is now part of that chain. Fame would have made him a celebrity. Ownership made him a one-man piece of national infrastructure, a private citizen who functions like a public utility. The synthesis. So let us return to where we started. 650,000 barrels of fuel a day, more than $100 billion in managed assets, an airport for a global city, a music catalog that earns in its sleep, and the cement under entire nations. We have now put names to all of them. The Alakija family who owned the oil instead of finding it, the Ibrahim family who sold the network and bought accountability, the Ogunlesi family inside the world's largest asset manager, the Carter family who kept their masters, the Motsepe family woven into a nation's power, the Adenuga family who owns the ground and the air in silence, the Smith family who owns the software the world runs on, the Rabiu family who multiplied an inheritance, the Steward family, the richest in America, that almost no one can name, and the Dangote family, alone at the summit. Here is the title finally paid in full. The richest black family in the world does not own a city. A city can be left. A city can decline. They own something deeper than real estate. They own the inputs, the cement, the fuel, the food, and the deeds. They do not own a place on the map. They own the things the map is built out of. That is the difference between being seen and being essential. Every family on this list, on 3 continents and across generations, learned the same single truth. Fame depreciates, ownership compounds. Now I want to hear from you. Of these 10 families, which surprised you the most? Was it the Steward family, quietly sitting at the top of America? Was it the Alakija family turning one oil license into a dynasty? Was it the Ogunlesi family owning the airports you fly through? Or do you think the real number 1, the most untouchable fortune of them all, is still someone we have not covered yet? Tell me in the comments. And if this reframed the way you see black wealth, ownership, and legacy, subscribe and turn on notifications. Next week, we open the books on another black fortune the mainstream refuses to report correctly. You will not want to miss who it is.